All right, I see a few people piling in now here. Uh, Closing down the market here. Live Q&A for Trade Ideas. Chris Varley sharing a screen on the mic. If anybody is joining, they're new, they've never seen this before. Trade Ideas were a stock scanning software for the U.S. markets, some Canadian data, but we do our focus here on the U.S. markets. So it's a live Q&A. Fire away. I don't come with any predetermined content. I will fill the dead air time any way that I can. But I'm really here for you all to come in, ask questions, share ideas, show off how the screeners work, any troubleshooting that I can do, something we want to build with the scanner or ideas that we have. And that's kind of the idea of this here. So open floor. Give it a moment here to see if anybody chimes in on the question panel with anything. If not, like I said, I'll try to fill the dead air with some items as I can. All right, so nothing so far. I'll start clicking around, and we'll take off. We'll start with Holly here first. So, kind of odd on the day today. We can see. Let's bring a SPY chart over real quick. 15-minute SPY chart. So it's yesterday, day before. Here's today. Another gap down, kind of curling horseshoe around, trying to get back above these momentum averages, but we're down for the day. Uh, you know, make of it what you will. 1.75% is not exactly anything to write home to mom about, but in the market that we've had, where it's a zombie market up, we'll call it what it is. But as we see, down on the day, and the shorts from Holly, the two here, one was a stop out, the other reduced risk, and yet her three longs, all pretty decent here on the entries and moving here. Um, we look better, of course, on the moderate profit than the conservative profit overall today. So that's what we'll go there. Moderate profit just means that whatever trade Holly gets into, she holds it till the end of the day, a sell on close order, essentially. So that's how that works. Um, Sorry, I have a ticket that I'm working on here in live support as well. So just give me a moment, bear with me. All right, so again, the shorts with Holly here, got to stop out and reduce risk. So let's jump right in. Let's take a look here. CHD. And the funny part about it is it actually was a trade that ended up working for quite a while. Let me bring over my drawing tool here. And Holly nearly top ticks it actually on that candle, but she got it earlier in that candle and gets stopped out just a few moments later, unfortunately, maybe about 5 minutes later, give or take. And it hangs around here for a second before a really nice release for quite a few hours. Or, well, I won't say hours, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nine 15-minute bars there. So a good amount of time. Unfortunately, it was one of those situations where second mouse gets the cheese, or fortunately, if you're a patient trader. So looks nicer on a 15-minute chart, obviously, than it does here on a 5-minute chart. A little more sloppy, a lot more wiggle room that's all through there, but all the same. It's one of those things where, was it going to be a gap down and reverse day or not? You never know. Start sort of early in the day, still here in the first hour. Would have been one of those things where maybe you want to right click and set a price alert here. and then kind of one of those set it and forget it moments here where you set it and you kind of just watch the price action from there, giving yourself an alert to see what direction this trade may or may not have taken. So again, a second mouse gets the cheese kind of trade here, unfortunately, was a stop out. Makes it is what it is, but the stop out really only matters if someone's really trying to automate this. And again, not huge into the automation side of Holly. I think it's best man and machine managed. She was early, a lot of alpha to be had on that early afterwards, though. So, but again, it is what it is. I'm sorry, that was a reduced risk, not a stop out. We came within a penny of a stop out, it looks like. UNFI, that was our stop out. All right, so same kind of thing here. She makes the entry rate there at the top of this bar. The next bar comes and gets it, and she stays up above it for a short little bit here. But this trade never really worked. Barely got past its entry on that short before the moving averages caught it, and it just had strength all day long and momentum all day long, and a huge day on the upside of that. I mean, 23%. So, she was on the wrong side of that, and the separation from the eights just didn't work out well for her today. And if you were here on, I believe, Friday of last week, separation from the eights actually had quite a few really good trades. So, the ebb and flow once again of how these things work. And we can see these are the strategies that came to the table with today. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different strategies she came with, but only 5 of them fired. So the rest, nothing in the entire market met the conditions of those trades. So I'm going to pause again here for a second. If someone has any questions, a live open forum. Pop your questions in. I'm going to give it a dead air second here, and I'll continue on going over a little more Holly on this here. So. So, all right, nothing else coming in here. So we'll continue up along with Holly here. So we're going to move into the longs, which all happen to be winning trades. Nicer looking chart here. UNFI. So she did it from the long, she did it from the short, and long side obviously worked out much better. She makes the long entry just about where she made the short entry too. The short entry we saw was back here on that candle at this level at the top of that candle. About an hour and 15 minutes later, hour and a half later, she makes the entry right here on this candle there and stays pretty equal to buyers and sellers until we get a little alpha lift up breaking that range there. So not a bad entry on that 45.39. We're almost topping at 47 now. Looks like we took 47 out up there. So pretty good entry as far as that went. Unfortunately, she did exit in her conservative mode as a profit save. So as I mentioned before, we have the conservative and we have the moderate modes on this for risk. And as I said before, moderate means she made the entry and she holds it for the entire day, sell on close order. Conservative means that there are several different several different exits that she can make. One of which is what we call a profit save, which is essentially a trailing stop, not letting a winner turn into a loser. So after this entry here, on this bar here, she wasn't going to let that winner turn into a loser, and so she exited for just a few pennies. Unfortunately, that's the way that worked. Like I said, we got a little more wiggle here, and it was off. So today happens to be a risk on kind of day or a moderate kind of day. Moderate used to be referred to as risk on when Holly first came live, and conservative was actually called risk off. We've since adjusted those. And some other risk off exits we could find for ourselves or conservative exits is a reduced risk, meaning that the trade isn't working. We're not going to stick around. We're not going to let it hit the stop. And so that's what we saw here on CHD. And unfortunately, that reduced risk cost her on the conservative side because it was a very well working trade as we saw from that before. moving right along, Dava here, a little more of an expensive stock here, 125. I guess expensive relative to people. Not something I would normally trade, and the chart doesn't look all the best. A lot of topping tails, bottoming tails, but all the same, alpha's alpha. And with traders of all sorts of walks, it doesn't matter. Chart's a chart. So we make the entry here, and she whips right down after that entry, actually, and almost hits a stop. But what's funny about that is what the name of the strategy is, pushing the spring. And we can see that, pushing the spring here, taking a look at that big long wick that's right there on that entry candle. So that's kind of is what it is for that strategy, is more or less what it's looking for, kind of those bigger average ranges, or bigger ranges, I shouldn't say average range. And again, we stay range bound for a while here until she starts to break it. And some good alpha that's there. She comes back down, but she never makes it back down to that entry once we make that original takeoff there. So she stayed in the money the whole day right up until this point with moderate mode. Again, she exited on a profit save in the conservative mode. So just kind of hammering away. Today was risk on kind of day, a moderate profit kind of day. And that can mean other things for us too. We don't necessarily have to trade the AI to let the AI gives us other signals. We may have been in some other trades ourselves during the day, and watching what the AI is doing and how her moderate versus her conservative spread is working out, we could say to ourselves, well, we've been range bound on any of our own trades separate from the AI. As we can see that maybe our trades are pulling up and the AI trades are pulling up, that shows us that we are on that risk on day, and to let those winners run and not a day to cut early. And one of those days where maybe the cookies stay on the table a little longer for us before taking any of those profits. So, and of course, it never hurts to satisfy both demons. You're in a lot, a few hundred shares, however your share in size, in a few hundred, a few thousand, doesn't matter. It's all relative to what our account is, what our trading plan is. We make a move up like this, a few dollars, basically $24 entry, move up to, 25 and change, a little more than $1 on there. We'll take a few shares off there, satisfy both demons, the demons of greed and fear. So, different ways to play this, different ways to interpret the data. Those are the kind of things that I look at, that I'm thinking of when I'm using the software here for my trading. So again, take a pause. Just got a ticket here that I'm looking at. And again, if someone has any questions here, please jump in, chime in with those questions. This is really an open forum. I'm just filling airtime right now going over Holly. So and still nothing on the question side here. So we'll pile right along here. So Dava, and last but not least, almost everybody in the world of trading probably saw this today. GoGo, massive gap up, and it really never looked back the whole day. I mean, it'd be hard to find, trades cleaner on a 15-minute chart than this. Buyers and sellers become equal for about that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 candles there before we start to break it on the 8th candle and 9th candle. We really start to take off. I always like when the happy accidents happen. Moving averages that I happen to like as a 20 SMA, 8 EMA. Those are what I happen to like to look at. And this basically obeyed the 8 EMA the entire day. The gap up, 8 EMA catches, never closes above. It touches a couple of times, and then it never even touches again. Even now, still hasn't touched. I was joking around with a couple of guys just before I started this. I was going to get $18, just shy of it. 15 minutes left in the day. Not sure that it'll get there at this point now, but just a beautiful entry and beautiful trade. Like I said, on a day like today, there's probably not a whole lot going on better or more active than something that's up 40% on the day, essentially. Just under $5 now, and it crest $5 up there. So just an outstanding trade. Kind of speaks for itself with that chart, the averages. I was doing some work for some promotions with this chart earlier, but I had a line that was drawn right, and I'm going to draw it back now. I don't need it erased, but I had this line that was here, and this line's been here for quite a long time. Like I said, I just taken it off a few hours ago today. But if we go back in time and we zoom out, we can see that this line was a fairly significant line for quite a while here, going back into early this year. And every time we got through it, we came right back down early on. We call that, almost a double top there on that daily. And then we couldn't poke through it all these other times through here. So, you know, that was the line to watch today. And we can see that I didn't even realize as I drew that line what it was going to mean for this intraday chart right here on that 15-minute chart. We can see we hesitated to get through it right here. We pulled through it, came back, tested it, and it was off again. So, there are times where the pivots and, the pivot and support lines, the resistance and support lines, they're dead on. And there's times where we sneak past them a little bit, get a little loopsy, and get right back down past them again on one side or the other. And today was an example of where we got by it and we held it. So it was a pretty big line in the sand that we were able to push through there with the AI. So again, I see that's, at the top of the viewers that I've had since I started doing this last week. It's an open forum. I'm really just filling dead air time. So, if you have questions about, a filter or an alert or an idea that you have about a scan or, something you're wondering about the charts or the compare count windows, please fire away these questions here. That's what I'm here for, more live Q&A. So I'll give it another moment here of dead air time, if you will, for a second. All right, so let's see. All right, Monica, thank you for your time. Go over where a beginner can start. I see a strategy, how to test it, optimize it. Yeah, absolutely. So a few different directions that anybody could go as a beginner. We have our channel bar. I'm going to load a docked channel bar. I'm going to bring this over to the screen here. There's a little less in the channel bars here as we're still working on all this. This is all done server-side architect, so a lot more that goes into doing this here. But essentially, Monica, all these are layouts here. Everyone has a theme to them, what they mean. So Holly you'll find in here. There's also, if you want to open Holly, if you were on the menu bar here, you go new, and there's two Holly options. You want the Holly strategy trades window, and that will give you this window down here that we're looking at. All right. I would say most users are going to want to jump into these channels and kind of look at what the themes are. They're pretty self-explanatory, but again, on the menu bar, if you're curious what something means, if you come to help, you are going to find, channel descriptions, and right here, and it will give you this web page that is loading, and I'm going to bring over right here. And it'll go over what each of these channels are. We're going to have to update this, it looks like. The web version still has Holly separated into 3 segments, where on the app we've combined them. The web version is always going to be a little slower as the programming is much harder with things coming in that side. But in here, you're going to find all these different descriptions for all the channels that are in here, what they mean. All right. And start to move into those channels that you find to be most interesting or what you're looking for. And from there, you can start to kind of build layouts. Um, So what happens here is, let's say that we want to build a layout. We like short squeeze stocks. So we could come to click the short squeeze channel. All right. And that's going to load us up some different scans here. And we say to ourselves, hedge funds could be in panic mode. What is that about? We go to right click. All right. Configure. We can come in here and we can look at what this scan is doing here. And everything, it's got a full description in the summary, or you can even come to the window specific filter and we can look at what the filters are that are here. All right. And this is what the scan is looking for. This is what it's doing. And if we were to say to ourselves, boy, I like the look of that scan. I want this to be part of a layout I want to create. We'll right click, we'll save or share to cloud. All right. And we can see short squeeze right there. Sorry, because it's a channel. It's going to try to save the whole thing. We want to right click and we're going to duplicate this into a free floating window. All right. So this scan is out on its own. All right. So here it is on its own. We'll right click, save or share to cloud, and look, short hedge funds could be in panic mode, and we're going to save that. All right. So that's one scan that's in there for us now. All right. And then we can say to ourselves, I like, want to see something momentum wise. So let's click on the momentum channel. And the same concept, we can go through each of these different scans that are going to load up in here and say to ourselves, I like this, I like that, based on looking at the configures. And again, we can duplicate it into a free floating window and right click it. And we can save this individual here. And so it's Extreme Master Blaster is the name. We're going to go to save. We've now saved that to our cloud as well. All right, sorry, just got a question to answer here. So all right, so now we've got two scans that are in there like that. And let's see, what else do we want to do here? Let's take a look at Trade the Gap. Everybody likes a good gap play. So we load the Trade the Gap and gap movers. All right, so that looks good. We're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to right click because we're in a docked window. We want to get it separated out of the dock window. Okay, so we're going to duplicate into a free floating window again, just like we've been doing. And that now we have the free floating scan that's here. All right, and we right click, save or share to cloud. We save it. All right, that's saved. And now we can get rid of these this big dock channel. All right, we've gotten rid of that. And now we can say to ourselves, I'm gonna minimize. All right, I'm gonna minimize what I got going on here. And we're gonna bring up everything that we just did basically and saved eventually. Once this is done, asking if I want to minimize things. All right. So now we're going to bring our toolbar. All right. And we're going to go to File and Load from Cloud. And we can see Gap Movers is here in the cloud. All right. So there we go. We can load that. Popped on a different screen, but here we are. We'll put that here. And we come to File, Load from Cloud again, and we can see Extreme Master Blaster. All right. We put that here, and now we're building our own channel, our own layout. All right, and same thing here again, load from cloud. And short hedge funds could be in panic mode. Again, these are loading on a different screen for me, so that's why I got to bring them over. Now we say, well, we need some charts, right, to go with this. So then we can come to new, and we can come to chart window. All right, and these are going to load up. They have a default way that they're going to load. All right, so you can pick how you want them to look afterwards. But let's say we want a couple of different charts here. So file, again, new, sorry, not file, new, and chart window. So now we got a couple of different charts that are here. All right, and everything in Trade Ideas is right click essentially, right? So we got a 5-minute chart and a 5-minute chart. Well, we don't want to look at 2 5-minute charts, right? We want to look at different time frames. So right click, time frame, and we'll put up a 15-minute chart here. And now we have a 5-minute and a 15-minute chart that are there. And that's the beginnings of our layout. Take it a step further and say, well, now I'm ready to create my own alert window, right? So we go to file, and we go to new, and we go to alert window. And that's going to give us a brand new configure window. Now, when you go to new, you can do 2 things. You can either start with what it's got preloaded and just come to the window specific filters tab, erase the values that are there, all right, and start it from scratch that way. Or you can click the start from scratch that's right here. The only reason I don't like to click the start from scratch here is because we want to see columns when this ends. So unless you feel like going through and putting all the columns in yourself at the end, and by what I mean by columns is if we look here, we can see strategy, symbol, time, price, relative volume, 5-minute, 1-minute volume. We can add or subtract any of the columns from the filters that we have. But when you start from scratch, it's not going to really give you any columns. So you'll have to go into the columns tab and start adding what you want to add. So it's a way that I do when I build a scan to save a step. So let me know if that helps at all, Monica. Hopefully that did. Did Holly find go with some sort of default setting or a strategy had to be selected from? Got a lot of them won. No, it's Holly's window. That's it. She has a scan. The scan was looking at the whole market minus whatever her filter set said. GoGo met that filter set, and so that alert was made just like any other alert window. It's just that Holly gets a lot more back testing and optimizing and a lot more filters and alerts not a lot more alerts, a lot more filters than the average window gets. So it wasn't like she was just looking at GoGo specifically. She's looking at the whole market based on what her filter set was. So all right, so sorry, I'm just still in a chat with someone else. So, and then, so hopefully that answers your question there. Got a lot of them won. And then KR, let's see. Hi, Chris, can you take a look at GoGo? And ALT kind of got overlooked. Attention this morning. What did you take on? Well, I know ALT had a phase 1 news that crushed it, and then it was recovering earlier in the day. I'm not really sure how that all went. The rest of the day I wasn't tracking it, although it's a stock that I've been tracking for months. And as far as the other ones, it's not that they got overlooked. SONA, CIE, DBGI. It's just that what she back tested and optimized for strategies, those stocks didn't meet any of those scans. That's all there was to it, that she came to the table with today. So, that's all there was to it. It would be nice if she caught them all. Unfortunately, it's not the way it's going to go. She's got what she can and can't catch essentially, or she's got, what she has optimized and back tested. One of the things I'll throw out there, I'm going to close out what I've done here, all this extra stuff, so I can bring up my regular layout again. All right, there. So there comes my regular layout that I had up. Sorry, take a moment here to load. But what we have to consider is when she's optimizing back testing. All right, so now we've got these days of being flat like this here, okay, and the SPY and the overall market. And if you look at the other indexes, they're going to all kind of look similar to this. All right, so she's back testing and optimizing these days that look like this, and then today happens like this. So she came to the day back testing and optimizing with these strategies here based on what's been going on here. There's no prediction. We're looking at probabilities. All right. So she was not anticipating this kind of gap down and go type of day. Now it still happens to work out that even on that gap down and go day, and we're right back near session lows again, that she had all her winners actually look from the long side, and just kind of the way that it goes. And that's why man and machine working best together. So I hope that kind of clarifies KR. Um, like I said, it's not so much that they got overlooked, just those stocks, whatever was going on in those, none of those met the filter set for these 10 strategies that she came to the day with. Uh, you know, Unfortunate, but that's just the way that the market trades. So SNOA. Let's just take a look for fun, of course. Da-da-da-da-da. So all right, let's try that again. SNOA. And so yeah, big gap up and move kind of down day for it. Unfortunately, just like I said, it wasn't something that met any of her filter requirements. But beautiful, give it up and go from the early. And something else you want to keep in mind outside of the software, trader's mentality, trader's eye. Look at all these days where it gaps up or makes a big move up and gives it up, and in comparison to the days where it made a move up and held some of it, at least those all have some wicks on them too. So, you know, stocks have a personality. The stock's personality is to gap up and give it up, as you can see here. And I suspect if we were to zoom out, we'll find some more of those. Yeah, look at that. I mean, zooming out, you're just going to see them all over the place. So stocks have a personality. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. So kind of a big deal. So Monica, that does help. Again, open forum, so fire away the questions here. I see another questions come in. Just give me a second here. Still trying to explain to someone who can't understand why they can't have a trailing stop and um, a regular stop at the same time. So, all right, sorry about that. All right, meant overlooked. I was just asking about keeping an eye on many potential. Oh yeah, I mean, um, ways that I would keep on any kind of potential stocks is, I'm really big on the on my price alerts here. I don't have much in there right now. This is nothing that I was looking at for the day. It was a quiet day for me. Uh, I don't trade every day. So it's just kind of how I trade. I'm not as an active trader as some of the other guys around here are, but set it and forget it kind of mentality. You come across something on any of your scanners and it looks promising. I'm especially not someone that likes to rush in the first 15, 20, even 30 minutes if I am taking a trade. But you see something that's hitting a scanner early, set that price alert and you can monitor it that way. um, there's always a lot of action going on. It might not always be the action you're interested in. So um, Those are just CEI is something I've actually been watching because I've been very bullish on energy and natural gas in general anyways. So it's funny that you mentioned that because I've been talking about CEI for a few days now. Someone actually last week brought it to my attention. It might have actually been you for all I know, KR. Because it was under the minimum that would meet my evening scan that I have that I run. So, and then Monica, back to you. It does help now if you have all the scans that you think you might like and adjust it. How do you test Gap and Go Extreme Master Blaster? What do you mean by back tested? I see what you're saying. So you can only back test alert windows. So Extreme Master Blaster, Monica, would be a multi window, which means there's multiple alert windows that are attached into it. Um, so I'm gonna load. Well, I guess I don't need to load anything here. Let me find an alert window here. File load from cloud. We'll load the gap movers here. So, because I already had that out from before. So we're going to load the gap movers because it's just an alert window. So we'll start with the basics. So we've got gap movers, our alert window. In order to back test like everything else in Trade Ideas, right click and back test strategy right here. That's going to give us this configure window for what we call the odds maker. All right. And so you have your start time of the strategy, what time you want the strategy to start taking trades, what time you want it to stop taking trades on the end. Okay. And then you have the time exit. All right. You got to pick a time exit here. So do you want to exit a specific time of the day, exit after a certain amount of minutes that the trade has been entered? Do you want to swing it to close on the market open or close it on the market close? Today, tomorrow, next day, go all the way out 64 days, as that's where our data runs to. We can add different risk managements. Do we want a target, a stop? Do we want to do it in dollars? Do we want to do it in percent? And then advanced, that's where we can set some different trailing things. Some of this is a little more advanced. That's why it is the advanced exit. So if you're not familiar with these, I would say, study up through, Wikipedia or not Wikipedia, excuse me, Investopedia or whatever, what trailing stops mean, so on and so forth. I won't dive down the market mechanics of that really right now. And then you can set the back tester. How many days do you want to back test? We go out to approximately 64 days, depending on how market holidays fall on weekdays. Sometimes this could be cut to 63, 62, 61 days, but generally it's 64 days. And in the summary, it'll tell us what we're doing. So the way we set it right now is that we initiate the trades in between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. These are Eastern times, of course. Exit the trade at the close after 0 days. There's no advanced exits. There's no stop. There's no profit. There's no anything other on targets. And so then we click simulate buy, and we're testing 64 full days. We click simulate buy, and this is what's going to happen here. We'll let that run. We'll give it a second. So taking a second here, working its way through the pipeline, all that data. I'll take another second here. Yeah, so it would close today. Exactly. That was a more quote unquote complicated way of doing that. I was just kind of whipping the bars back and forth on all that. So, showing you the different things there. We're getting near the end. We're at 99%. All right, so there we've worked its way through the pipeline, and so we have our equity curves here. There's a few different equity curves that we're looking at here based on the gross, including commissions, and then commissions and shares. Commission per trade or commission per share. And so those are numbers that we can mess around with there. All right. And so one of the tricks with this here can be this. You may see a really great big equity curve here, and you're like, wow, I got this massive strategy, and you see big winners and profits and all that, all those things like that. And it'll all because of one or two big days. So when you're looking at back tests, one of the spots you really want to go to, and James Smith, if you're in here now, just give me a moment. Let me finish up this here, and then I'll go through why you can't have both stops. We come to the daily chart here, all right, or the daily tab on this, and we can see here, while there's some big winning days, there's big losing days, and there's a whole lot more losing days than winning days. And that's what you want to look for consistency in a scan. From there, take it the next step, and we can start to optimize. So if we come to the optimization tab, there's a lot of different things we can do. We can optimize by time of day, and we can pick the minute intervals that we want to do. So it's set at 30, but if we click 5, then we click enter. Now we're looking at 5-minute intervals, and it's going to go from the time we started the scan, right? So 10 o'clock was the start of the scan, and it's going to run the balance of the day because we're going to the end of the close. And so we can start to pick out and see if time of day is a factor in how well the scan or is not doing. We can look at price too, and again, it's got a 10 interval there, but we can go 0.5. So we're going in 50-cent intervals, and same thing. We can see how these work here and all of that. And then we can come to other filters. All right. And then we can start to go through every single filter we have and how to optimize based on those filters. So if volume was a type of filter that you were doing. Hello, Mr. Gomez. If volume's a filter that you're using, you come right here and you can look for the different volume filters that we offer. So let's see here. Trying to find a volume filter for us to look at. So 1 minute volume percent right there. All right. We could bring that in. And again, it's going to have a crazy default interval, but we can go with, let's say, 100 instead of 100,000 or whatever that was. All right. And we can start to look at and where this may be affecting, so in this scan, there's, where you want to start. That's entirely up to you, but we can see that volume as isn't playing a huge role in anything that's going on in the scan from what we can see from there. Well, we can take the intervals down even more. So let's say we could do it intervals of 25. And we can see a little more separation from the winners and losers based on those. And that's more or less the balance of optimization. And then if you become someone like me, you'll stay up all night, many weeks in a row, optimizing scans, because it's a great rabbit hole to fall down and a lot of fun, at least for this nerd. So hopefully that clears that up, Monica. If you give me a minute, I'm going to circle back how to do that with a multi-window, but you can't do it right out with a multi-window. I want to help James out here. So James, the way this whole thing works here with Brokerage Plus, all right, we send a bracket order to IB. And IB cannot differentiate what the orders mean, where they came from, how they came, or anything like that. IB just knows that these set of orders were sent based on this fill. That's the end of it. And so if you have a trailing stop and then you have a stop order, all right, if that trailing stop were to get hit, because you have to pick a stop and a target, all right, you don't have to, but the way trailing stop works, at least with IB, I can't comment with anybody else, because we don't link with anybody else in this manner other than E-Trade. But the way the trailing stop will work is if your trailing stop were to get hit, okay, it'll close your order. You'll have a zero position. That's it. There's no partial sales. That's just the way Brokerage Plus currently runs right now. Your stop order is still going to sit there. IB's not canceling that stop order. It's not a conditional stop order. It's not how their system works. So now your stop order is sitting there with no position because your trailing stop was hit. If you fall to that stop order price, you're triggering a sale. And all IB knows is that you have a sell order there, and it's going to sell those shares that you don't have, creating a short position. So it's just how our system works, their system works. And, unfortunately, there's nothing else that we can do about that. It's like I explained to people, IB really doesn't even know we exist. And they're a huge corporation. And if you were to call IB and say, hey, I use Trade Ideas, they'd say, hey, who's Trade Ideas? We have no idea what you're talking about whatsoever. It took us forever to be able to even get them to open up their API and their data to us. And like everybody else that we've tried to do it with, once they've opened up that data in their API, if we have any concerns or questions or something doesn't work right, they say your problem, not ours. Figure it out. But you're third-party software, and you're lucky we opened the door to you. And that's really how it works for our relationship with them. So you see what you're saying? You would sell the trailing stop is what would happen, and the stop would still sit there. Where when you send out a traditional bracket order, yes, so your other stop would create a short. That's exactly what would happen. So with your other if you were to send out traditional bracket order, a stop and a target, when one or the other gets hit, it will cancel the other orders. But the way it works within IB system, um, it doesn't need to all right, sorry, it just won't cancel. It won't cancel that second stop if the trailing stop gets hit. So believe me, there are things that I wish were different with Brokerage Plus, with some different strategies that I've created over the years, and the way they back tested it, and the fact that the market mechanics won't work in my favor with that. I wish that we had ways to exit based on rising moving averages and things like that, but it has to be a static order that goes into IB. They're not going to calculate your moving average and move your stop according to that moving average, or your RSI and move the stop according to that RSI. So, it's the system is unfortunately what it is. There are things that we're working on our side that will give us more leeway. We're working on different things with Server Architect and things like that. But again, it's not just us. There are people involved in this that we have no control over whatsoever. It's the reason why we don't have a Thinkorswim connection right now. We were in beta testing of it for months, and I was actually one of the people beta testing it. And then we found out that the data that comes out of Thinkorswim and their API is, for lack of a better term, garbage. And when our developers reached out to TD Ameritrade and told them that, TD Ameritrade said, "Hey, isn't that too bad for you?" And that's essentially what their answer was. And it was the same thing for E-Trade. So we focused the attention on E-Trade. We've been able to come up with a way to work around E-Trade's bad API and bad data, and make it work now. And now we'll move on to TD Ameritrade again in a short bit here. What we are doing on our side is we are trying to create our own Server Architect that will work, that we don't need their data anymore to update our portfolios. And when that comes in, I'd like to say sooner than later, but it won't. And that's just kind of how that goes. So no, no, of course, James, I'm happy to help. And it's like, uh, probably nobody in here, obviously nobody really knows me in here, but my background is not finance. My background is actually a service industry. I don't like telling people no. And in fact, it's one of these things that, like, I don't like answering tickets with no. And I always want to come up with a workaround if I can for anybody. It's just, this isn't someone, asking for, can I have this dish prepared a different way? Or can I have this salad without something else? We have, things on our side that we have to work with, and things on other sides. It's the same thing where if we were able to open an API for other people to export our data into their own programs, whether it be Python or something else, that would actually alleviate some of what's going on here, because IB leaves an open API themselves that people can plug stuff into if they are able to program. Yeah, so all right. So I'm preaching to the choir on some of this. So we actually have another Chris that works here who built an entire API system to trade with E-Trade years and years and years ago using our software. And then when he wanted to try to plug it into what we Trade Ideas had some sort of an API back then, but it didn't work right. And when he wanted to plug his system in, he couldn't do it. And so it is one of his torches that he carries, and it's a fight that he's championing, that we can do something with an API on our end eventually. So, there are people here on this end that are pushing for a lot of the stuff that you're asking for. Hopefully we can get some of those things done at some point. So, and again, fire away any other questions that anybody has. So I'm going to jump back. Monica was asking questions about back testing. So we went over back testing on an alert window. but now back testing on a multi-window. So we're going to bring an Extreme Master Blaster scan back over here again. All right. So again, this is just a scan that we had created. It's in our Momentum channel, but you can't just right click and come to back test on a multi-window, because what a multi-window here is, it's a way to save screen space. So we have a whole bunch of alert windows that are configured inside here. Essentially, what we do is when we right click and we come to strategy, we can pick which strategy we want. So we'll start with extreme volume 2 through $10, and then we go to open alert window, and that's going to open and separate that specific alert window out of the strategy. Now it still exists within this window here. All right, so it's still there. We just popped out the parent window from it that was put into this to create it, and as part of that, and now we can right click and back test that individual window just like that. And again, we could set the timed exit, so on and so forth here, and all these tabs, just like we went over before. We'll leave it at 30 and we'll just run it for fun. And here in the summary again, we're starting, trades between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., 60-minute hold, no other conditions other than it's a 30-day back test, simulate buy. And let's see what it gives. And so that went much faster than the last one. You can see, not anything too special on the back test here. And the same thing here, we can come to the optimization tab. We can once again go by time of day. You can just look at the symbols that came through here that did the best, so on and so forth. So show the top 10, you can show the top 100 again, all these different things that we can do. We can come in through all the other filters, and we can even go into calendars. All right. And we can see what our different days were on all of this here. So, you can see those darker green days are your bigger win days, your smaller win days, the lighter green, darker red being your biggest losers. And it gives you an idea of what went on. So, 7 out of 22 trades on your win rate, profit, your average gain, so on and so forth. And then you can take it a step further and you can double click the day, and it'll give you each of the trades, the exits, the entries, the share, the gross profit or loss, so on and so forth. And all this information that's here for you to go through. Now, one note I will make for anybody that's watching here, our back tester is much like every other commercial back tester that exists that's out there. They are open, high, low candles, but we do on 1 minute candles. So if you're trying to back test something that's extremely volatile, especially off the open, your results may be a little skewed, if you will. If you're testing things that are more, I guess reasonable is a relative term, if you will, but if you're testing stuff that doesn't have a dollar spread or isn't, have a dollar range in the first minute or something like that of trading, you're getting, fairly accurate results with that. And that's where, you back test the strategy, you optimize it, and then you move it into our simulator, all right, a live simulator. And that starts to give you a better idea of what's going on. Our Brokerage Plus module, that's where you can find the simulator. And then, taking it from simulation to live trading, that's the next step there, obviously. So hopefully that covers enough to really get you down some rabbit holes. And like I said, if anybody's like me, there have been a few times where I was literally falling asleep on my desk back testing all night long. So I'll look forward to see what happens eventually. Probably pursue that. Also, maybe the strategy that is easier to implement. Yeah, and James. So just so you know, James, this is something I just started not even a week ago. This later support session here, I'll generally run it from 3:30. I will start 3:30 every day. Most days I'll be exiting at 4:30 for now. But on days where I don't have to be running away from the desk, if people are here, they're keeping me active, they're asking questions, I'll stick around longer. If it's questions related more to the software than just people throwing out charts and things like that, as I always hammer the table on, I'm no CMT or anything like that as far as charting goes. I look at a chart, I see what I see. May not be what other people see. And I am at very best, I'm a very, very mediocre trader. I eke out more of a profit than I lose over a long period of time, but I'm no Barry, Barry that runs the room during the day. he's a wizard. I'm no Andy, I'm no Steve, I'm no Jamie. These guys have been doing it for, some of them have been doing it for, as well, not as long as I've been alive, but pretty close anyways. So, they're the real wizards. I know the software well enough to do this support, and I know that people can't make a support session at noon every day that we do. So trying to get some more live content for everybody in here, get people the support that they really need to make the best use of this software. And the software, it's to steal a term from Andy, all the years that I was listening to him, and the same with Steve in the webinars. It's powerful software, and there's just no one way to look at anything. There's no one way to look at a scan even. We got a couple of minutes before we wrap here. So again, it's an open forum. I'll just fill dead airspace with my ramblings till we make it midway on the hour, as I'm messing up my layout here. Whoops. There we go. Get rid of that. Bring this back over again here. So I have a scan that I scan with usually a few minutes after the market closes. This is it right here. We're 26 minutes past the close of the market. And so I go through the scan nightly, pick out what interests my eyes. There are always things on here that are going to be extended that I'm not really going to be much interested in the next day. But one of the things that I do with this scan, aside just from looking for charts themselves, is what are these charts involved in? Now, anybody that was in here the end of last week when I started doing this, the last couple of days, this has been loaded with energy, and specifically natural gas. And, if we look at what nat gas has done over the last, week plus, had a big run up, pulled back, and then jumped way up again this week, so for the last couple of weeks, that this evening scan here has been loaded with stocks related to energy in general, specifically natural gas. We had that big move up, bit of a pullback, this big gap up again the last day and a half here that we're holding, 2 days that we're holding here. And so I say to myself, okay, well, let's say there was 10 charts that I really liked in here, right? And 7 of those charts were natural gas, or 7 of those charts were semiconductors, or 7 of those charts were in healthcare. I then know to be looking at those sectors and stocks related to those sectors for alpha over the next couple of days, or at least that's where probability lies where that alpha be. So 2 ways that I use this specific scan. And the reason why that works well for me anyways is I like 20-day time frames when I'm looking at. And if we right click, come into the scan, we will see that I am looking for stocks where they are 75% above the low of 20 days. And so I know that anything that comes in here is breaking out of a 20-day range. There's other things that are in here. I like to see things closing strong going into the next day. So 75% above the low of today's range. 750,000 shares keeps me interested in liquidity wise. I prefer to trade smaller price stocks. So $4 to $30 is where my price range is on that. And I put a relative volume filter there of 1. So that's that scan for me. Now today it's a little bare. Over the last 10 days, 15 days, whatever it's been, thinking back at least 10 days, this thing has been full. 100 or more symbols in here. I take my time, I go through them, I look at, how they fit or don't fit into what I'm looking for in charting. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, but I will put a link of that if anybody's interested. We share things, cloud links here. So there's nothing magic to that scanner. I just happen to like it. It works well for me overall. There are times where it doesn't have anything, anything great in there for me or anybody else, I suppose. But I'm going to share it all the same. You can take it, you can edit it, you can not take it, whatever you want to do with it. So, sorry, just load that up so I can share it, and share, copy, and paste. And there, that's in that chat window for you. You guys go ahead and you're welcome to that scan. Again, a lot of what I say and what I do here is from years and years of being in the trading room with Barry and the webinars with Jamie, Andy, and Steve. My schedule back then happened to fall that I never got to see the Q&A webinars maybe a few times a year with Dan and Brad. So I don't have much stolen material from Dan and Brad, other than Dan, I know, always hammering the table on don't marry stocks. But a lot of what I say comes from those guys, and they're in the positions that they are in with this software and trading for a reason. So I paired a lot of it, and it has worked for me and equaled some mild successes for me, to say the least. So we're at 4:30. I'll stick around another minute or two here. So if someone has any questions, fire them away, please. If not, we will begin to wind this down in the next moment or two. So nothing else coming in here. And again, try not to get your thinking boxed in with the scanning. I guess the last piece that I'm going to leave the people that are watching here with is that while we might not have a straight away yes answer to a question that you want to do something or something you want to scan for, there may be outside of the box ways to think about doing these things. So for example, we don't have a ton in pattern recognition. However, Andy was able to create a bull flag scanner on daily using range and position and range filters. All right. So what he had done was he took some different filters, and I'm going to bring the configure of this over here. And today was definitely not a bull flag day. That scanner is empty currently. But what he did was took some different filters here, and we're going to focus more on the range filters here. And a 5-day range, so between 1 and 5 on that range. The change in 5 days, he wanted to see just a maximum of a 1% on it. Position in today's range, 75% above the low, and then a change in 10 days, he wanted to see a minimum of 3%. And with that, he was able to create a bull flag scanner. We haven't had a market for bull flags today, so obviously that scanner is out. It's not showing anything. But my point being is that he did that for daily. Now, if you come back to the search tab and you come in here and you go to range, not range, there we go. You're going to see a whole lot of time frames on range, and you're going to see it in dollar and percent values. All right. And if we go to position, we're going to see that same kind of thing here. A lot of different position filters in dollars and percents. So there's a lot of options for you to start creating your own kind of bull or bear flag scanner on a time frame that you're looking for and get you close to what you're looking for. So, like I said, just because, even on your own, you're sitting there and like, well, they don't have exactly what I'm looking for. Expand that mind thinking, get out there, start plugging some things in, think of other ways to look at these filters and how you can use the data that are coming in from them to get what you're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and just for fun, we'll share that scanner in case anybody doesn't have that bull flag scanner. And share, copy, paste. There's that scanner as well. And so I'm going to give everybody a minute to open that link, copy, save, share that to your cloud. And with that, I guess I'll wind it down if there's no other questions or comments to come in for me here. So, all right. I thank you all for watching, for participating, for the questions, keeping me engaged. Again, I will be back here. So Barry closes his side of everything at 3 o'clock, half hour of dead air time there as I get things ready on my side. And I will be back here tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. So same bat time, same bat channel, folks. All right. Thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.